Gentlemen, boys and girls, and all you guys spamming in the Twitch chat, this is what the past few hours and the past 3 months of Premier League competition here at House Party 5v5 have come down to. We started out at a best of 5. We went back and forth, win for win for win for win, and now we're here at a series tied up 2-2. Whoever wins this one walks home with everything. It's Never Clucky in the blue versus Space Age Wizards in the red. I'm Captain Flowers here in the casting desk one last time with Deck Club Ace. Deck, how's this one going to go?
All I can say is we've had our cheese game, we've had our throw games, we've had our close games, and now I just want a slugfest. I want to see a game where there's so much brutality going on. I want to see everything, pull out all the stops. If you have any mains that you haven't played yet, that you can get tons of kills on and you can't usually close out games, use it now, because this is the time to get those stats boosted as high as possible.
This game is going to be awesome. I just know it is, because we already watched the Clown Fiesta clip coming into this one. All those clips from that video you guys watched right before we started casting right now, that's the Clown Fiesta part for this game already done. So everything we're going to see is going to be high-quality LCS level plays that's just blood and knuckles down to the wire. Who's going to win this one? I have no idea, but we're seeing Sivir and Bard picked up already as the bot lane for Clucky versus the Alistar and Rek'Sai combination coming out over onto the side of Saw. A lot of knock-up there.
The real question is whether or not Space Age Wizards can break this bad luck that blue side is winning every single game now. They need to get a win on the red side. This is 4 games now, and blue side has won every single time.
And that's what Space Age Wizards is going to have to do. They're going to have to break that tradition, break that curse if they want to win this series and win this game. Is Zumi going to hover over the Graves? That's one we actually haven't seen so far played in this series. A pretty popular champion still across solo queue, across the meta in general, but he hasn't been picked up yet. We'll have to see if they go with him. Instead, we're picking up Pantheon this time around.
The Pantheon lock, I gotta toss my hat out to you, sir. Pantheon is the manliest man that you can possibly drop onto this rift. There's a reason they call the AP build the Mantheon, so we'll see what he's gonna do whether he's gonna go in mid lane or top lane or even jungle. You can put him pretty much wherever you want. The Draven once again hovered over. I'm not too sure that's gonna be picked. Honestly, if you're gonna pick Draven at this point, you'd be better off picking Jhin, because they do basically the same thing in lane, and Jhin will two-shot a tank late game, so, you know, ups and downs.
We'll have to see how it works out. Hovering over that one, likely just going to switch it out. We saw them do this last time when they hovered the Skarner and hovered the Draven at the same time. This time they're leaving poor old Skarner in the dumpster and just hovering Draven instead. They might lock it in. I don't know. Like you said, this is the game to try the crazy stuff. Going to pick up Caitlyn, going to pick up Nautilus.
The Nautilus, hasn't been too long since I've seen Nautilus. His resurgence as a top laner as opposed to a support is a little bit unusual, but that being said, he's very strong, particularly up against something like a Pantheon, simply because he doesn't really care, per se. He gets really tanky, builds a lot of health, just becomes a huge nuisance. The Caitlyn, though, I want to mention that Caitlyn, because the thing about Caitlyn is she's really safe as a laner. She has very long harass range, she's got very long farming range, and overall, if you're willing to play safe, her trading in terms of sieging is really obnoxious. You can't walk past her line of scrimmage of the traps, because if you step on one, she can just headshot you for so much damage.
And speaking of a line that you can't get past, look at the other 3 champions picked up for this team on Space Age Wizards. If that's not a front line, I don't know what is.
It's a lot of death and destruction coming our way, which tickles my fancy. That being said, let's see what this 5th pick is going to be. I can only assume that it's going to be a mid laner unless someone else on the Rift plays mid lane Nautilus besides me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put my money safely on not mid lane Nautilus. And we're going to have to see what they pick up to deal with the Lux in the mid lane. Is Zumi Shinichi going to be piloting that one? And you talked about in a previous game when we were talking about how Vel'Koz works and how you don't want to run into him because he's awesome when he's kiting backwards and you have to run straight into those skill shots, that Lux plays a similar kind of game. She's had one of the highest win rates, if not the highest, for mid laners in solo queue for a while now. And the champion's ability to set up picks and create this amazing presence in team fights is absolutely huge. And if it ain't broke, why fix it? Gunshin picking up Victor for the 2nd game in a row.
I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Victor didn't get banned after how he destroyed people last game, and really, they didn't really pick anybody that different in terms of the potential. Okay, sure, Lux has a longer engage range than Orianna, but in general, she's still going to die pretty fast to a Victor that gets close enough to her. It's really going to come down to whether or not they're willing to toss things around. Pantheon, though, going in the jungle. I kind of joked about Pantheon being the jungler, but I guess Let My Sup Go is willing to go ahead and do that. That's totally fine. Pantheon in the jungle is really obnoxious because while his clear isn't the best in the game, one of the most annoying things about him is he can walk into lane, easily tanking tower shots with his passive, and has a decent stun.
Not just decent, point and click. That's one of the biggest things in this game is if you've got a point and click stun, you can just spell disaster for opponents, especially in the laning phase. And Let My Sup Go, obviously after last game picking the Amumu, he's not afraid to pick off the meta. Hopefully for his sake and his team's sake, this will go a little bit better than last game did.
Hopefully. That being said, DMX once again picking up that Rek'Sai that, while we haven't seen any particularly standout flashy plays, he has managed to get a couple of pretty good knockup combos, whether it's flashing or just walking up behind people and getting two people in the knockup. So I'm very interested to see how it's going to turn out in the early game. The thing about Pantheon is that if you pick a Pantheon, you're on a clock. You have a limited amount of time for Pantheon to be effective because he doesn't scale as hard as some of these other champions do into the late game. And Rek'Sai kind of not exactly the same way. Early game damage is really good, but then late game transitions into a tank. Pantheon, on the other hand, is only a marginally okay tank in the late game.
We'll have to see if he's able to make those plays early. Because absolutely agree, he's 100% on a clock. He's got to get into the lanes. He's got to get to Muse and Gunshin. Because this team on Space Age Wizards is kind of like what we saw from Never Clucky in games numbers 1 and 3, the two games that they won, the ones that they just destroyed. Where if you kill the tank line, who really cares? You've got these two massive carries that'll be doing all the damage, and the tank line is there to make sure they stay alive. If you remove Gunshin and Muse from the team, if you actually collapse and kill those two, where's the damage coming from? Yeah, Super Frank can hurt. Yeah, DMX can hurt. Yeah, I guess Relara can hurt you for 12 damage from his passive or whatever. But all the damage, the real threats coming out of these two. And those are the two that Clucky's going to have to kill time and again.
Exactly, and they have a team set up to do just that. They've got the pick potential with the Pantheon coming in from the sides. They've got the potential of Bard helping out with some roams. Even just Shen. The problem here is, keep in mind, they have so much global potential to set up for. They can set up the Bard ultimate. They can set it up in such a way that Pantheon is guaranteed to land on top of them. And as soon as he lands, he can be joined by his best friend, the Superman Shen, showing up to save the day, and they're almost guaranteed to get a kill between two of them, let alone the ranged harass that's going to come out from the Lux laser.
The ranged harass, the ranged burst, both these mid laners are able to just spell disaster for their opponents if the AoE hits multiple people in the fights. And who clumps and who doesn't might just be the difference between who wins and who loses when the dust settles on this one. Stick around, everybody. In 20 seconds, we'll be launching into game number 5 in this best of 5 series. It's tied 2-2. There's no more second chances. Whoever wins here walks away with the whole thing, the prize, the money, the glory, the title, everything. So stick here. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to House Party 5v5 Season Finals. the final game. First time in House Party's history where we have gone to 5 games in such a way that I can't say which game was my favorite. There are so many things in each one of them, so many things about them that were great, between the awesome plays, between all the stuff. Both teams rushing out. We got a nice clump here. I am, of course, Declabase on color. Joining me on play-by-play is my good friend Captain Flowers, and man, it has been a pleasure casting these games so far. They've been pretty crazy.
We're living the dream, Deck. What a time to be alive. We're going to Game 5 for the first time in House Party 5v5 recorded history, and hopefully it's going to be one to write home about.
Hopefully. And it's looking like there's not going to be a whole lot going on in this early game. They are, instead of doing any sort of crazy invades, this is the game where, okay, the picks are a little bit different, but the places you put them are the same. We don't want to pull too many surprises in one basket. A little bit dangerous, but one thing I want to note, though, Pantheon starting down towards this bot side, he may or may not be going for an early buff start. If he does do an early buff start, then he'll probably go up towards, there he is, he's going towards top side to help with that blue buff on the Shen. He will be going there, then getting another buff, and then killing someone, or at least trying.
Nobody going to do anything too risky starting off in this 5th and final game. Nobody wants to lose off the back of 4 people dying at level 1 for some random reason. So everybody's going to play it safe, starting off with those bot laners at those camps level 1, getting whatever advantage they can in terms of EXP, just trying to milk absolutely any edge that's possible to make sure they can walk away with a victory here.
Getting that early camp on both bot sides, looking like they did a little bit better on the side of Never Clucky, spreading that damage out, but at the same time, Muse got all of the XP, and Angel got all the XP for Clucky, so a little bit of a strange position to be in.
Now, normally, you do see the 80 carries take all the EXP sometimes. You might split it even, or you might give it all to the 80 carry. This is the first time I've seen them go with the give it all to the support strategy.
At the same time, I can't really fault them, because if you think about it, being at level 2 on Bard is actually a lot more valuable than being on level 2 as Sivir in terms of harass. Because he can get both his stun and his heal.
Well, we'll have to see if it pays off for him. Muse and Relara doing what they do with that Caitlyn lane bully potential here early on. Sivir's got limited range. Caitlyn absolutely does not. I fully expect to see Muse bullying around his opponent this entire laning phase, at least unless Let My Sup Go is able to get in there, make some plays of his own, find those ganks, find those collapses like we were talking about in the champion select that he needs to do. Because as this game goes on, every minute that ticks by is another minute for DMX to outscale. There's the hook on a Nair. Here comes the knockup from DMX. They're looking to take this guy down, but a nice Spirit's Refuge going to block almost all of that damage, and Nair doesn't even mind. He doesn't have to flash. He doesn't have to do anything. He just walks away.
One of the dangers of ganking the new Shen is he gets so much defensive power just from activating the Spirit's Refuge. He gets tons of abilities to dodge all of those attacks, and because of that, he took basically no damage. Sure, he took a little bit, but he would have taken that damage in a trade anyway, and he wasted a lot of time on the side of DMX. So DMX had to waste a ton of time doing that. What we do see, though, is Talisman, now having the Spell Shield, is able to get some free mana regen, courtesy of these traps.
Always gotta love pulling that one off his Sivir. Now, one thing that we should comment on is the fact that last time, Nerv had a very typical top laner. He had Poppy against unorthodox top laner in Echo. This time around, he's up against something that's very regular again. He's dealing with Nautilus. So he knows the kind of damage Frank's able to put down. He knows what to expect. He knows what to play around. So don't look to see him taken down in the 1v1 again. He does get the taunt on Frank, forcing this trade out a little bit longer, but Frank's damage on the Riptide is going to make him regret doing that potentially a little bit. Grasp the Undying procs on that one and both walk away as Let My Sup Go looking to fight DMX a little bit, throws the spear, walks himself away on that one. Not afraid of Rek'Sai early on, looking to use that Pantheon early power spike.
The thing is, even though we do see that Hayam Nerv did manage to pick up a Doran shield really early, he still has less health than Super Frank, and because of that, Super Frank actually does more damage with his grasp. So the trading is a little bit difficult.
Trading is very difficult with Nautilus in general. The champion kind of just presses all his buttons and walks at you and attacks you, and he trades incredibly well by doing so.
Like, his early game potential is simply because the cooldown on the Riptide is so short that he can effectively spam it. It's about 6 seconds or so once you've got a couple of points in it. And the mana cost is, I guess, a little high early on, but it's not high enough to discourage you from just spamming it.
Absolutely not. Nautilus has been popular in the top lane for a reason. He's powerful early, the Riptide cooldown, something to be afraid of, and as the game goes on, although he doesn't have the free tank stats of a Rammus or a Poppy, he still gets a lot of bonus health from that shield. He's still this massive CC bot. He's honestly the only character I can think of that has 4 different forms of CC, so he provides incredible lockdown.
Oh, that's gonna show up in the mid game. I've mentioned it before whenever we've briefly seen Nautilus in previous games. Once he gets to the mid game, once he gets some points in his abilities and gets a little bit of cooldown reduction, he can keep one target crowd controlled for a full 8 seconds in an ideal situation. If he can just walk up to them, get his auto attack down, that means he's going to keep them down for quite a while.
Dota level CC, boys. Nautilus has no mercy on targets that do not respect the amount of lockdown he's able to put out. 8.6 to 8.6 thousand gold. No farm advantages showing up early on in this one.
It's true, and we did see...
Overall, there are definitely farm advantages. I got to correct myself on that one. In the mid lane, Azumi's got a very nice advantage over Gunshin. But overall, once everything equalizes, the gold's still the same.
That's true. In the top side, though, Super Frank is kind of running himself out of mana. He's used all of his corrupting potions. DMX is top lane, though, so maybe they'll be able to make something from this. Never mind, looks like he does indeed get spotted out by not 1, but 2 wards. And it doesn't quite get the other one, but that's okay. He knows it's there.
And honestly, even if DMX had the opportunity to go for that gank, even if Nerb just ignored the fact that he was there was no threat. Super Frank had no mana. How are you going to actually end up killing a Shen when you don't have any mana on your Nautilus?
Very, very carefully. That being said, Pantheon still hasn't actually shown up yet. I think maybe he's having a little bit of a harder time clearing than expected. He is trying to rush a little bit of damage, so maybe he's going to try and make an opportunity topside, potentially in a little while. He can do it with his ult. Ooh, S-Angel, you are easily spotted out by the Rek'Sai. Tremor Sense. Looks like they're going to roam down towards bot side, though.
Roaming down towards bot side, looking to make those plays. Let my sup go, still no ultimate available. And once he has that ultimate, that's going to open up a whole new world of ganking possibility.
Talk about dangerous places to be in. Unfortunately, Pantheon not quite able to get there without being spotted out. They couldn't get the magical journey down just yet because he was snared. Couldn't get a good one down. Very unfortunate, but they did manage to get a little bit of vision clear there. They did get rid of a pink ward and pretty much just kind of very slow early game. Much slower than the other games, actually.
Especially compared to last game where Saw had 4 men in the Never Clucky jungle at 4 minutes finding First Blood. Yeah, this one's taking a step backwards.
I think a lot of that comes down to this is the last game, though. They pick some things that are a little bit unconventional, but at the same time, they're playing them very safe because they don't want to give up anything early game, because if you lose the early game and the opponent is as dedicated to it as you are, then you're probably going to lose, because both teams are fairly good in both early, mid, and late game in some way, shape, or form. So it's not like at any point either side will suddenly become weaker. It's just different aspects of the team become more important.
And that's encouraging both sides to play as carefully as possible. Even with your unorthodox picks, you can make kind of a crazy pick as long as you don't get too crazy in terms of your actual gameplay. Let my sup go here in the top lane. Might be looking for the 1v2 against Super Frank, who's able to keep himself alive, using the shield, forcing those minions away, and as soon as the shield falls, that's the signal for Supgo to get in there. Flash away, Super Frank walks away, Supgo gets some damage down, but honestly, it's not enough for the effort.
Meanwhile, in mid lane, S-Angel shows up trying to get a little bit of harass on the Gungeon and then immediately takes half of his health bar and damage in just 2 spells.
I mentioned last game, and I'll mention it again now, the damage Victor's able to do, as long as he doesn't fall behind, as long as he's where he wants to be in terms of comparison to everybody else in gold and value and all that stuff, is insane. The burst on him to just delete not one person, but multiple people, since Chaos Storm and Death Ray are both multi-target AoE abilities, crazy.
Oh, easily. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that if you try and just walk at him, unless he's a little inexperienced at playing Victor, as long as he doesn't panic, he'll kill you. Pantheon showed up. We did see the Bard ult, but unfortunately it didn't actually hit anybody. So that Bard, Pantheon, man drop combo did not quite go as planned. Gonna lose a little bit of momentum because of that, but not too much, though. DMX is showing up down bot lane.
DMX might want to get himself involved down here. Health bar's already hurting a little bit on the side of the Never Clucky bottom laners as Nerb and Frank continue to trade blows here in the top lane. Grasps proccing back and forth. Izumi and Gunshin, here comes the damage, here comes the spells. Light Binding connects onto Gunshin, but no more is going to follow up from that one. A good gravity field threatens that stun onto Izumi and forces him to walk away.
Definitely a good call from Izumi, though. He did manage to land a really good bit of harass onto Gunshin. He does have a very slight XP and CS lead. Does not want to try and overcommit to a kill that he might not be able to get. Sure, he might have heal, but that might not save him from all the damage.
When the burst is as crazy as what you're seeing from Gunshin, heal's never going to be something you just want to count on and say, yeah, I feel 100% safe. No problems here whatsoever. That being said, we're still staring down the barrel of a 0-0 game 11 minutes in. We're still looking at a game that's only 200 gold apart. Neither team is willing to slip up.
It's very true. It is a very safe, methodical game on both sides. Both junglers just kind of farming up, showing their faces every once in a while, but not too often. Rek'Sai currently inside the jungle, up behind Izumi. A little bit of a dangerous spot to be in, though, as we do see both Let My Sup Go and S-Angel floating around. Gunshin doing a little bit more harass to Izumi, but not too terribly much. We do see, though, Izumi going for that, going for the Frost Fang into the Frost Queen's claim, something that not many mid laners do anymore, although Lux still can do it very well, and it allows her to land her spells much easier.
Let My Sup Go. We talked earlier about how Pantheon wants to find the ganks, wants to get himself ahead. He's just not doing it so far. Time is ticking, sir. You got to get yourself in there somehow, some way. Gunshin over the wall with the laser. Not going to find a whole lot more from that one. Izumi can't really help too much. Yeah, you can throw a shield out there. You might be able to throw a single laser or something. But Let My Sup Go has to walk himself away. Meanwhile, with mid laner and jungler both incapacitated, at least for the time being, that's going to be Saul's Dragon going over their way just for free. 12 minutes in, we're going back to that later on Dragon number 1 that we saw in games number 1 and 2, but Saul takes it, no contest.
It's the very first thing. Very slight advantage. At this point in the game, it's not a huge advantage to get that early Dragon, but it is just slightly going to give them a minor lead, rather. That being said, there's not really any huge leads anywhere. Bot lane is fairly even. There's, of course, a little bit of a difference in terms of the items they chose to build. Uh-oh. Here comes the man drop.
This might be exactly what we're looking for First Blood. Never Clucky's looking to make it happen. Muse getting himself away. Exhaust is down. Heal used as well. Let My Sup Go under the turret. First Blood goes over to the Bard, but Talisman's going to die in return unless Stand United has anything to say about it. Turret finishes him off 1 for 1 at the end of the day as Izumi face checks Gunshin and finds the binding in return. Angel's got the follow-up CC, so Gunshin's going to be locked down too long to actually grab a kill. Let My Sup Go's still here. DMX might be looking for the knockup. They've got the rest of Saw nearby. Gonna block some of that damage with the shield. Gunshin's going to be stunned up. Here's Relara as well. No mana. Gunshin's going to fall as DMX now has to get himself away. Here comes Magical Journey. Angel looking for more. Space Age Wizards overestimates what they're able to do in pursuit. A nice binding. Goodbye, DMX. Izumi Shinichi going to bring his team up to 3-1 as Nerb and Super Frank go for the showdown here in the top lane. Nerb wins out for now, but the shield has been activated. Super Frank's trading potential is currently at maximum, and Nerb's got to respect it. They both back away, and Clucky takes the fight and takes the lead.
So, I'm going to talk about the team fight in a second, but I just realized something that's really important about this game in particular. The first game of the series, we saw Bard, but it was on the other side. This time, S-Angel's on the Bard, and is utterly destroying with it, managing to land stun after stun he needs in the fight. More importantly, there wasn't really... Uh-oh, Muse, oh no!
Muse in some trouble, has to get himself away from Angel and Talisman now. The Boomerang Blade connects. Both parts of that one going to chip away at his HP. The trap comes down. Angel walking away. Relara is here. The Rampaging Bull rampages backwards and keeps that 80 carry safe.
But I just want to say about that team fight, I have to criticize Let My Sup Go. He actually used his stun on Relara, who is the only champion on their team right now who is capable of removing a stun. I can't say that that was the best decision.
Sometimes in the heat of the moment, you don't exactly measure out exactly what the best course of action could be. Obviously, there's always improvements that could be made. Talisman and Angel both hurting a little bit. Gotta be careful not to overextend this one too far. Muse is here. Ralar is able to find the knock-up onto Talisman, who cannot spell shield it in time. Still walks away, though. Not much more you can do about that one. Never Clucky's got to be happy with the way that first blood fight ended up playing out. They got a 3-for-1. They should have just got a 1-for-1, honestly. I don't know why Gunshin and the rest of the Space Age Wizards chased that fight as long as they did. Even if they caught up, Gunshin had already used his AoE ultimate. He had already used that big burst. So I don't really see what they were looking for, what kind of gain there was. It was a really high risk for a really limited reward, and Clucky punishes it. Clucky makes them realize the risk.
I guess maybe they thought they had a little bit more going for them, but unfortunately they didn't. Izumi just doing so much damage on a Gunshin, punishing him for not picking up any magic resist. Much like he got punished himself for not picking up any magic resist before.
Less than a 1,000 gold lead still. Never Clucky's enjoying a lead, but it's not one they're actually able to be comfortable with just yet. They still got to respect what Saw can do. They still got to respect what's going to happen if Nautilus teleports into a fight at the right time and does exactly what you talked about earlier, locking these targets down. Now, of course, Sivir has a way to get away from it a little bit. At least she has her spell shield to block something important. Block the hook, block the lockdown, block something. But Lux has got to be really careful, because if Nautilus gets on top of her, she's pretty much dead. Dive here in the bot lane. Saw looking to make things happen onto Talisman, but here comes Tempered Fate, going to land onto 3. Turret and all those champions going to be bound up as Saw has to get themselves away now. Angel's here. He's found the binding only onto Ralara, who's now got to get himself away. No Unbreakable Will, still willing to go. The Boomerang Blade is not going to be able to connect, but here's Let My Sup Go. Ralara's got to keep running. DMX trying to get himself away. Ralara goes for the knockup, but it's not going to do anything. He still falls, but Sup Go goes as well. Gunshin's got the follow-up. It's a 1-for-1 as Izumi can't find the binding, and the Wizards walk away.
Walking away to lick their wounds, but it's looking like they're not quite done yet. They're a little bit hanging near that tower. A little dangerous, though. One thing to say, though, in that top side, we did see Hyamnir popped that Stand United. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately for Saw, Super Frank was close enough to manage to interrupt it.
Saw's going to lose their first turret of this game, 17 minutes in. Dragon number 2 going to be live here in about a minute. 1,500 gold now, the tune of the lead for Never Clucky. Gunshin doesn't get the kill for himself, sadly. He only gets an assist off that one. They want to get him as fed as possible, as quickly as possible. He's the answer that Saw is going to have for this initiation, this powerful dive coming in from the Pantheon on the side of Never Clucky.
The problem, though, is if you can't quite peel for him in time before he gets blown up, he needs to build a little bit on the defensive side, because if he gets killed, then all they have left is Caitlyn. And Caitlyn cannot deal with multiple targets at once. Well, unless she builds Runon's Hurricane, which could be something she considers, but it's still really dangerous to rely on a Caitlyn to deal with the rest of the team. And if you look at the team comp, Shen does a decent amount of damage by himself, much like Nautilus does a decent amount of damage. But they have Pantheon, who's really good at killing people in the early to mid game. They've got Lux, who does a ton of AoE damage, and they have Sivir, who also does a pretty high, non-insignificant amount of AoE damage. So you gotta watch out, because if you're not careful in the team fights, you'll be left without any damage.
And what we talked about earlier in this game is the amount of care that both teams have taken so far. The amount of caution they're exercising, the amount of respect they're giving each other, not willing to actually let this game slip away in the early game. But as Space Age Wizards, as a team that earlier on in this series has had problems with going too hard onto the wrong targets, it's all about maintaining that. It's about maintaining that attitude, that air of respect, that air of caution that'll allow you to continue to do well. Angel's knocked up out of his journey. He's going to be the first one to fall in this fight as Wizards have found themselves a 1-for-0. TP comes in for Frank. We're going to see Nairb look to get himself in as well, but he's still off to the side. Dragon number 2 might be taken as Izumi Shinichi steals it away. Let My Sup Go's got Stand United. Hi, I'm Nairb is here as well. He's into the backdrop. He's able to find some damage onto Alara, but how much more can he do? Nairb's knocked up into the air. Super Frank taking a whole lot of burst, but here comes the counter burst from Gunshin, who's looking to erase these guys with the power of the Chaos Storm. Sup Go's going to be bursted down. A little bit more auto attack damage will take him. There comes Muse's killing spree. It's a 2-for-1 going the way, a 2-for-0, going the way of the Space Age Wizards. They tie the game up in kills. They lose the dragon to Izumi's snipe, but they got to be happy with the way the fight went after.
Definitely a fight that went directly in their favor. DMX almost dying, not once, but twice, to 2 different targets. And I gotta say, though, it was a very good rotation for them. They managed to catch out S-Angel. And because of that, they got a really easy kill and followed up with a bunch of extra stuff. Uh-oh, Gunshin gonna take so much damage. Goodbye.
Gunshin gonna be deleted. No way out of that one. Super Frank kind of wobbles himself away, but Never Clucky takes that fight. 5-4 now. This game couldn't be closer. 20 minutes in, 30.7 to 30.8 thousand gold. Neither team's willing to give this one up.
Both teams have a dragon. Both teams have a tower. We're getting the second tower here, and honestly, this is the closest game we have seen in a long time. Both teams refusing to give up anything. Gotta say, though, a little bit off topic, but as we're focusing on Bard now, gotta talk about those little penguins. Look how cute they are.
All the penguins today, between that and my revelation that Gnar actually throws ice-encrusted penguins during his mega form in the snow skin, we're just having a penguin-filled day, aren't we?
It's a fantastic game. I think he also has the penguin wards, too.
I mean,
Those
if
are
you're
like-
going to go for it, you might as well go for a completed theme, right?
I mean, it's psychological warfare. You don't want to kill the cute penguins.
That is a good point. If you have to kill the penguin to kill the ward, as now Nerb's looking to kill the Super Frank. Here comes Let My Sub Go, able to find the 2v1, and Frank's got no help coming. He needs to Spider-Man his way out of this one, able to find that hook onto the terrain, and he'll walk away to see another day. Meanwhile, Muse might not be in the same bucket. The exhaust is down, and the crit comes out. Goodbye, Muse. Talisman finds that one.
He's going to need a Muse of his own if he's unable to get a little bit of creativity. Couldn't get out. I don't know why he didn't even use his net jump. He just kind of backed off. One thing to say, though, Super Frank was actually really good in his play. He backed way off and managed to get himself away with a nice little dredge line. And is actually fairly healthy, all things considered.
Looking at these mid laners, Gunshin's at 0, 2, and 2, so he's got some kill participation, but sadly none of those actually on him. Look at Azumi. 3, 0, 1. Higher CS. Highest CS in the game except for Muse, who's 3 above him. This guy is right where he wants to be an absolute monster in these 5v5 team fights.
Definitely something you gotta watch out for. Izumi also the longest engage range on his team, unless you count, of course, the Mantheon drop. But that being said, I don't actually know what they're gonna do about that, because they effectively need to force a fight onto Izumi. But Izumi thus far has been playing fairly safe, has stayed pretty much in his lane for the most part. The only exception was whenever he decided to walk down towards Dragon, and when he did, he stole Dragon. So you gotta kind of go do something about that.
Dragons are tied up. Turrets are almost tied up. Of course, Never Clucky taking that mid lane turret after the pick onto Muse gives them a little bit of a gold advantage. But if we look at the items completed, we're going to see Sunfire Capes done on both of the top laners. Spirit Visage going to be the next pickup for Hi, I'm Nerb Shen. He wants to make sure he's able to do something about that magic damage coming down from Gunshin. Meanwhile, it's a continued armor stack from Super Frank. He doesn't really care that much about Izumi. He's more concerned about blocking the damage from Talisman and Supgo, so he's going to go with that Iceborne Gauntlet, item number 2.
Gotta say, though, Gunshin's still going for even more damage. Hasn't decided to pick up anything defensive yet. He did grab those Boots of Swiftness, which gives him a little bit better chance of dodging the extra bindings coming out from Izumi, but unfortunately, that's not really going to save him from the likes of, say, Pantheon, with his point-and-click stun. Seeing a little bit of a fight going out here in the mid lane, potentially. Nope, never mind. You just wanted to throw those ghosts out to make sure he was safe to clear that ward. Super Frank taking that easy pink ward away, but he's going to get caught out a little bit by Angel. I don't actually think that Bard is going to be able to harass a Gnarlus out.
Those weren't killer ghosts. Those were recon ghosts.
Ah,
You
yes.
drop them to find yourself some information and back away. They're peaceful, sort of.
Secret Agent Spookster.
Exactly. Muse now in some trouble. Sup goes here. He's able to find the CC, able to find the lockdown, and goodbye, Muse. The burst between Izumi and Supgo is more than enough to just delete him off the face of the world. Even through the heal, he can't quite survive, and Never Clucky is looking for the T2 middle. All of Space Age Wizards are still here except for that 80 carry, but without the 80 carry, they don't have the power they need to defend. It's just like we've mentioned time and time again so far on a 2-carry comp with this massive 3-man tank line. When one of those carries dies, all of a sudden a huge chunk of your damage is no longer available, and you've just got to back up.
Unfortunately, we do see Super Frank actually was kind of hesitating on what he should do. He didn't go straight for the tower, so that tower is actually not going to die immediately either. That means that when the dragon spawns in about 40 seconds, we will see potentially Never Clucky in a good position. They just cleared out a bunch of vision, they dropped some wards there of their own, and they're pushing out that wave in the bot side that was building against them. So got a lot out of that, managed to reset the wave in the mid lane, managed to get a tower out of that. Come on, this is exactly what they want. And as we saw, there was no lead, and now look at that. That's a 4K gold lead that has suddenly appeared out of nowhere.
Now we've got something solid to work with. Now Clucky's actually got some bang to their buck. Now they've actually got something that they can feel confident in these fights because they're rocking it. Fights in the open now are actually going to favor Never Clucky just because of the gold lead alone. It's big enough to do that. Now, of course, it's not big enough to have somebody caught out and still turn around and win the fight, but it's big enough to have that natural advantage. It's big enough to have enough of an advantage that Space Age Wizards has to back away from these fights unless they're 100% confident they can start this off and win it their way. Dragon number 2 goes the way of Clucky. Wizards wants nothing to do with that.
Definitely can't help but agree with their decision. Honestly, I can't see that going well if they try and fight for that. The rest of Never Clucky is pretty much full health. The only person not there is Shen, who currently, while he does not have Stand United, he does have Teleport available. So at best, it's going to be a fair fight, and that is not a fight that Space Age Wizards wants.
At this point, fair doesn't really mean fair for the Wizards. Because of that advantage that Never Clucky has managed to build up for themselves, they're sitting in a great spot. They got a 3-0 and 2 Lux. Void Staff completed on her now to pierce through that magic resistance, and Saw is really struggling to find an answer to her this game.
Indeed, and as we see Izumi realizing that, hey, I'm quite a bit ahead. Maybe I should get ready because they're going to build defensively against me. Picking up that third item Void Staff, something we almost never see people do. Just goes to show you the caliber of players we're playing with, because we see they haven't even started building a ton of MR yet, but we know, okay, Lux is 3-0 and 2. Lux has quite a lead in terms of the damage potential, so maybe they might consider building MR. I guess they should probably just get a little bit of pen.
Space Age Wizards, they have to just watch that Tier 1 outer turret fall in the top lane. Nothing they can do to defend it, because they realize that if they try to stand forward, if they try to stand on top of the turret, force the fight on it, then Subco has the ability to jump down behind them. He has the ability to perform that pincer attack. The turret's going to fall one way or the other. You're not actually going to force the fight on top of a turret. Instead, you're going to force a fight that you might have an extra half second of damage on top of your opponents before they bring it down and then start the fight in earnest. And when Subco is able to cut your guys off, that's not a fight Saw's willing to take. A good call on their part backing away from that.
We do see a little bit of a rotation towards this bot and mid side. Looking like they definitely want to try and put a little bit of pressure. They do have a wave building towards the bot side. They want to get that bot side turret. That would be one of the easier ones for them to manage to dive at the moment, all things considered. Although there is a little bit of vision on the bot side jungle they haven't cleared out yet. We'll probably get to it eventually.
Eventually. Space Age Wizards just buying time, farming up, seeing what they can do. Down 5,000 gold now. What is the plan? If you're the Wizards, how do you actually get back into this game? Are you trying to play aggressively? Are you trying to find a pick onto somebody like Space Age Wizards are known to do? Or do you just sit back and hope for the farm game, hope for the 45-minute match where everybody's 5 and 6 slotted?
Well, at this point in the game, the farm game is no longer an option because you had a lead as your bot lane, right? Muse had, what was it, like a 20, 25, 30 CS lead over Talisman. Now Talisman has a lead. Even though Muse does have some kills, Talisman has the advantage of having as many assists as his opponent has kills, and currently has a bunch of towers already killed. So really, what Space Age Wizards needs to do at this point is they need to try and make a pick. They need to get some vision, and they need to kill Izumi. They need to kill Talisman before they can get away, and I don't see that happening right now. They're going to have to wait it out until they have some better vision.
Super Frank going to be taunted up by Nerb here. There's no follow-up this time, so Super Frank just has to walk himself away. He's not able to do too much in the 1v1 for now because that Spirit Visage from Nerb is blocking so much of the damage from Frank. It's all AP damage. So Frank and Gunshin are both going to have a hard time being able to bring Nerb down now. He's so very tanky. He's doing what Shen likes to do. The power to refresh those shields ever so frequently now that he's got that kit rework that lets him spam them is so powerful that he's going to be really hard to bring down once he gets in these fights and lands those taunts.
That's true, and one thing that we do see right now is that, unfortunately, Gunshin, not quite in as good a position as Izumi, has not actually finished his third item yet. He does not have his Hex Core fully upgraded, and in fact, he is kind of slow on his way to getting it. Meanwhile, Izumi has completed three items and is working on his fourth with that needlessly large rod, and is currently sitting on a good almost 1,500 gold. So it's only a matter of time. Ooh, Muse.
Subco trying to go on to Muse, but it's a little bit too aggro, even for his own sake. Here comes Ace in the hole. Sterix Gage already going to proc. Now, the thing is, if you're Never Clucky pushing up here on the top side, yeah, you have the momentum. Yeah, you have the gold advantage. but your opponents have already forced your jungler back. Gunshin's going to take a whole lot of damage from High Nair. Tempered Fate lands on the 3 members of Saw as the fight's still going to keep on breaking out. Angel's knocked up into the air, going to be juggled around, and he's taken down. Super Frank's got that kill. 1 for 0 going the way of the Wizards, and they're not able to pursue this one any further. They walk away with a slight win and hold Clucky at bay.
So, as I mentioned, they need to get a catch. They need to get a catch that cannot be turned around on, and as it so happens, Let My Sup Go just showed his face in mid lane, got pushed down to less than half health, so he had to back, and they knew he had to back, and they got a kill out of it.
Now we're going to see more potential kills coming down. Talisman in some trouble. Mew's going to take a whole lot of damage too. Azumi Shinichi picks that one up. But here's Super Frank looking to lock down. Let My Sup Go. Finds some damage with Riptide, but not enough. He's able to hook himself away to safety, at least for the time being. But a maximum range binding is going to bring the pain. Still walking away. The laser connects. It takes down Sup. Gunshin's got a flash. Nair can't find the taunt. Gunshin's still alive. Talisman's still alive. These guys all looking to disengage for the Wizards as Clucky's still pushing.
It was almost looking like it was good, but then I remembered that unfortunately Pantheon does not have very much MR right now. Even with a Hex Drinker, you didn't quite have enough to resist dying instantaneously. One thing to say though, this fight down towards Dragon, I guess that's, well, it does suck that Never Clucky didn't manage to get a whole lot out of that fight. They will manage to get themselves another Dragon here, because I really don't think DMX is going to make his way down here. That definitely would spell instant death. Although they might try and get a little bit of vision control on towards Baron at this point. Honestly, the best thing they could probably do, short of potentially trying to get a tower down.
Speaking of vision control, this game is different from the previous ones, because look at Saw. Saw's wards are all defensive this time. They don't have anything past the river. They know they're on their back foot. They know they're playing defensively, and Clucky's the ones dropping the deep wards this time around.
Seeing that slow push into mid lane, though, that tower's pretty low. They could get it down. Gunshin getting hit by a stun, though. Getting hit by another one. Goodbye.
Gunshin is deleted. There comes the Sivir ultimate, and here comes the fight. Space Age Wizards have to run themselves away from this one. R'Lara's going to be bound up. They're going to find the cow. Once Unbreakable Will goes away, he won't survive much longer. With the mid laner already dead, look at the bindings. Azumi Shinichi for MVP. Let My Sup Go's here as well. DMX about to fall. Never Clucky's looking to lock this game away. They're looking to break the base. They're looking to break their opponents in half. Azumi's got another binding on a DMX. He's dominating off that one. As now the rest of Clucky is here. They've got the ZZ Rots. They've got those minions pouring in, and they're looking to break inhibitor turret number 1. They'll do just that 32 minutes in, and they'll find the inhibitor shortly thereafter. Gunshin will be alive in 13, R'Lara in 15, so it's Inhib and Bale for Never Clucky.
Definitely worth every penny they just got out of that. Totally got to give it to Azumi, though. That was some insane bindings we saw. Managing to catch out Gunshin after the Bard binding hit. Just so much getting out from those bindings overall. And they're going to get Baron off of this, probably. I'd be surprised if a steal managed to come out, unless somehow Gunshin gets close enough to Chaos Storm it.
We'll have to see if they can stop this Baron attempt from going down. Space Age Wizards trying to get themselves in there. Talisman taken low, but another binding onto Gunshin seals his fate yet again. Let My Sup Go still in the Baron pit, looking to keep this one alive, looking to make sure they're able to take that objective. The rest of the Wizards are here. Talisman is low. They're able to find one kill, and it's on the 80 carry. Mew's still alive, but they've got to keep Nair off of him. He's likely going to drop here. He will drop. He will survive. I'm wrong yet again. Muse walks away. 2 dead on the side of Clucky, 1 dead on the side of the Wizards. It's that mid lane victor once again. 3 still alive on the side of Clucky, and they've all got Baron. You can call that a win, but you're going to lose your tier 1 turret for it.
That's really unfortunate, but if we look on the bot side, there's an absolutely ridiculous way of currently pummeling that tower. They will lose their mid-side turret, but Clucky is not necessarily in the worst position. They lost 2 turrets from that. They did get the Baron. They lost 1 kill. Muse might actually die here if he's not careful.
90 caliber nets himself away to safety. Sup Go just kind of ends up behind enemy lines, not really worried about the collapse coming. He walks himself away.
I mean, you know, if you're playing Pantheon, you may as well be as manly as possible, right? He was kind of hoping to get there before the wave all died so he could, like, Baron minion buff the whole wave, but unfortunate.
Not just a role player, a dirty role player. Getting back there, making sure he's as manly as possible, getting his hands dirty, looking to take down that Caitlyn. Sadly, won't find the opportunity, but he still makes the effort, and that's what counts, right? It's all about the heart.
It's true. Heart is the best power, but Seeing this Shen, though, he is still buying even more tank. He hasn't built a single damage item whatsoever. Hasn't even gone for, like, you know, Static Shiv, Triforce, any of the items we used to see on old Shen. Just straight up beef tank.
And that's what you got to do sometimes. ZZ Rot Portal's built. He's got those extra minions, that extra pushing power. He's so hard to kill. You saw how long it took the Wizards to try to get him off of Muse. Muse only barely survived thanks to the Locket activation coming down from Relara. Nerv, even though he's not building damage, still does enough to hurt that AD carry. And considering you've only got 2 targets to kill, you got to kill Gunshin, you got to kill Muse. Azumi's been making sure that Gunshin's life is hell. He's been binding him and killing him in every single fight. There's a reason Gunshin's 1 and 4. So all Nerv has to do is make sure he's able to take down Muse, or at least be an annoyance for long enough for the rest of his team to win the fight regardless.
We do see the siege coming out here with the Caitlyn traps already set up, but as was previously shown, Talisman doesn't really care too much about those traps if they're actually going to go for the tower, and they have to deal with the fact that they have some Baron minions here, so the tower's just going to constantly be taking a little bit of damage, not too much, but meanwhile, in the halls of mid lane, Nerv showed up to push it in a little bit and is now taking out the topside Zerat Portal, pushing against his own. He's going to be hanging out while the rest of his team is doing stuff bot lane. May as well, right? I mean, what are they going to do?
I mean, you're Shen.
You've
got TP. You've got Stand United. You can get into the fight if the fight needs you to get in there. Meanwhile, the rest of your team just keeps pushing up. Azumi's just tossing these bindings in. Every single one of them hits. This guy's just ability to land those things. And of course he curses me. As soon as I say every single one hits, he throws one at the tower.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the caster's curse. You gotta be wrong. 100% of the time, you gotta be wrong.
Gotta be wrong. I'm pretty par for the course today, actually. These guys have been making my calls wrong the entire time. But hey, we're still seeing an awesome series. I'm still loving it. This game's 7,000 gold now in favor of Never Clucky. The Wizards are gonna have to find some way to get themselves back into it. And maybe it'll be off the back of a botch dive into all these traps under this turret.
I don't know about that really early gravity field, though. He dropped it really early, didn't actually get anything out of it, but I guess it was mostly just to discourage any fights from going on. Nerv fighting Super Frank, but I don't actually think that he wins that fight, but he doesn't lose that fight either. It's not even really a fight.
It's a purgatory fight. They just stay there forever, accomplishing nothing, and eventually they back because they run out of mana or energy or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Nautilus has so much mana that it doesn't actually matter if he's using his spells for this. I mean, a fight could break out right now, and he's still got way more than enough mana to use all of his spells multiple times. That being said, we are seeing some backs. That mid-inherit turret is going to be spawning in a little bit, so a little bit of pressure will be opened up. Just gotta say, though, look at the vision from Clucky on bot side. All of those wards. It's
if
beautiful.
Anybody from Saw so much as plans a trip through their south side jungle, Clucky's going to know about it, and now Clucky's going to find dragon number 4. At this point in time, Saw is really, really glad they found that first dragon when they did, because if they didn't, that would be Clucky aspect.
Definitely, and we're seeing in the mid lane a lot of shoving going on, looking like they might want to actually move towards the top side. Maybe catch out Super Frank by himself. It's a little bit interesting, but see, they all just walked over a pink ward.
They don't
just
even
trying
care.
to get this outer turret.
Walking over a
yeah,
pink ward, they're just starving the enemy jungle. They're taking everything they can. They know they're this far ahead. A good double binding on a Relara and Super Frank. Granted, they're both tanky, but the damage still comes through.
Hey, that was a third of their health bar each, and those are the tanks. Can you imagine what would have happened if they actually hit like a carry or somebody of substance?
You mean the same thing that's happened to Gunshin throughout this entire game where he dies in about 0.2 seconds? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he shouldn't blink so much. Maybe he wouldn't die.
Korean level strats coming out from Deck Club Ace. Make sure when you guys get promoted to Challenger, you thank him for that one.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a professional coach. Relara getting caught out.
Relara might be in some trouble. That's not the target you want to start on. Knock up into the air on both Azumi and Nerv. Super Frank is here. He's got the lockdown onto Azumi, and this is what I was talking about. This is what they need. If they lose Lux, this could be Clucky losing the fight, but Lux is still alive. A 3-man laser. Relara's got to get himself away. DMX almost dead. Gunshin almost dead. Nerv still here. Won't find the taunt onto anyone, as here comes Pantheon's ultimate. Super Frank trying to escape. Gunshin's going to fall. Let My Sub Go takes that one. Frank trying to get himself away, but he's caught in between a 4-man Never Clucky sandwich. Goodbye, Space Age Wizards. I think that's the game.
I mean, that's 30 seconds till the next person shows up. They've got enough tanks to easily take down this tower, and the only person alive is DMX, and I really don't think he has the ability to save anything from this. One thing I gotta say, though, is Zumi. That wasn't just a 3-man spark. That was a 4-man spark hitting literally everyone that was at the fight.
And that fight looked like it might be the one time where Izumi's positioning isn't where it needs to be and he actually drops. Then he gets away with 15% health and does that. Izumi Shinichi is Never Clucky this game. Muse is going to be up in 2 seconds. Rolara's already up, trying to buy time, but Never Clucky is on the Nexus. Muse is here, auto attack's coming out, binding is already down, and ladies and gentlemen, Never Clucky are the House Party 5v5 Season 5 Premier League champions.
Ooh, I got goosebumps. That finale, how could we have any game for a final match and any other way? Let's be fair.
That was just about the best finale we could have possibly asked for. Never Clucky and Space Age Wizards both played their hearts out, and at the end of the day, Never Clucky walks away victorious. Congratulations to Hi, I'm Nerb, Let My Sup Go, Izumi Shinichi, Talisman, and S Angel. You guys are House Party 5v5's Premier League champions. Wear the title with all the glory, honor, and bragging rights that so rightfully come with it. And thank you guys for giving us all one hell of a show. Space Age Wizards, Super Frank, DMX, Gunshin, Muse, and Rolara. We couldn't have had such an awesome Game 5, Best of 5, everything about this show without you guys showing up the way you did. GG well played. If you look up valiant effort in the dictionary, you'll find what they did in this series right next to it. Thank you guys for tuning in the Twitch chat. We had 300 viewers tonight. That is absolutely insane here for House Party 5v5. Everybody that came from Reddit, everybody that came because your friends told you to come, thank you for showing up. We really appreciate the love. If you like what you saw here at House Party 5v5, follow the stream to keep up with all the action. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find us at our subreddit, reddit.com/r/houseparty5v5. With this season just now ending, the next season is only a couple weeks away. So be sure to keep up with all the information and ways that you too can participate in all the action here at House Party 5v5. I'd like to thank our streamers and admins and moderators and everybody that kept this thing running, Captain Kimchi, Red Eye, Anson, everybody behind the scenes for making this one happen. We couldn't do it without all those guys you never actually see or hear from. They're the dudes in the black shirt at the play. They're always making sure everything's working the way it needs to, running as smooth as possible, and we couldn't do it without them. I'm Captain Flowers, once again here for Deck Club Ace. We hope you enjoyed the show. We hope you had as much fun as we did, and we'll catch you next time.